Broadcasting from an undisclosed location under a farm pond somewhere in the Midwest. Your host is Jim Crowley. This is Slickfish Radio. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Slickfish Radio. We're going to have a good time tonight. We're going to be talking to Dennis Stump from Drop Zone Tackle. He's got some really cool products, and we're going to find out a little bit. We're going to find out a lot about his company and about him. And he's got some real innovative products, and I've been using a couple of them, and they are fantastic. So we're going to talk to Dennis here in just a little bit. I got some news for you. First of all, I want to thank our friends who help bring the show to you each and every week. That is my friends at American Tackle. Again, we're going to congratulate them. They're still going off their high of winning Best of Show at ICAST. That was absolutely incredible for them. And in weeks and months ahead, we're going to have a couple of guys from American Tackle on and talk a little bit more about that. So that should be a lot of fun because they're going to be riding high for, well, you got a whole year to enjoy that one. So congratulations to them. I'm going to be heading back up to La Crosse here in several weeks to film one of the last two shows of season 2 of Jim Crowley Outdoors for Wired to Fish. And right now, the La Crosse region is absolutely beautiful. If you need a place to take your family, La Crosse is always a great destination. So many things to do there with food, family, fun, fishing, you name it. La Crosse region is a great place to do that. Our friends at Shields, I was just there the other day, and everything is looking beautiful. Shelves are really stocked. There's some great deals on firearms there, as well as got some people clicking in already. Hi to everybody there. Donald Hostages. Hi, Donald. How are you? And Shields has got some great sales on ammo and great sales on fishing equipment. They got some new products coming in. So it's a very exciting time at Shields. Our friends at Cast King just released a couple new items. One, you saw the eye reel from iCast and the new Skeet Reese fishing reels, signature reels that are out. Plus Cast King's got new rods out. Cast King's got new everything. About every week, Cast King has something new coming out. And Rick Reed just joined us again. Hi, Rick. Great to see you. As I said, Donald Haas is with us. Donald, it's a really nice cigar you got going there. I really like that picture, buddy. So, and of course, we are powered by our friends at Dakota Lithium. So, 11-year warranty. Those are the batteries that I have in my boat. And for those of you who are tuning in right now, my boat is for sale. My 2022 Miracraft is for sale. I've got a really good price on it right now. So if you are interested in giving a demo boat with low hours on it, that's extremely well taken care of and extremely clean, you can easily contact me anytime, and I can go over the details with it. But it's an absolutely beautiful boat. And so if you're interested and you want a great machine, it's like I said, it's a 2021, it's a 2022 Miracraft 1771 Aggressor, great family boat, great fishing boat, multi-species. It's just an awesome machine. So with that being said, glad all of you are here and more of you coming in. Thank you for doing that. We are going to bring in Dennis Stump, and there is Dennis from Drop Zone Tackle. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you having me.
Oh, you bet. You bet. We had some good interest today on Facebook, and people were, I love bringing on quote unquote small lure companies because you see a lot of innovation coming from those type of companies, and innovations come out of necessity.
That's right.
They definitely do. Savannah and Jim Colbert just joined us. Hi guys, how you doing? And I've got a feeling that the reason you started developing some of these products is because you felt a need for it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you started Drop Zone Tackle?
Sure, and you're right on point with that. Most inventions and discoveries and things like that, they're born out of necessity or requirement. So we were fishing a local lake. We fished a tournament on the weekend, and we were catching fish on a drop shot, and the water was pretty clear. And this lake is fed by one of our main lakes in Virginia called Smith Mountain Lake. The lake I'm referring to is Leesville Lake. The water level can fluctuate, and with the fluctuation comes water clarity changes pretty rapidly. So we're catching them on a drop shot around laydowns, and we win the tournament. I go back Wednesdays. We have a tournament the next weekend. I had Wednesday off, so I went back. I'm trying to catch those fish again using forward-facing sonar. The water's gotten a little dirty. They won't bite moving baits. Pretty high bluebird skies, tough conditions. It won't bite crankbaits, top water, things like that. It's going to get them to commit. They would show interest with a drop shot, but you literally had to be within inches of the fish. Sure. And even still, they would show interest, but they just wouldn't commit. Or I just couldn't get it to them because they were buried. And when you're throwing it in laydowns, you're kind of working through the limbs. Sometimes you're just going to get hung up. If you get a bite, you're just not going to get them out. So what I was hoping for was to be able to call those fish out of the limbs a little bit with the drop shot. And I just wasn't able to do it. And kind of halfway joking, but not really understanding where it was going to go in the future. I told my buddy that I was with, I said, man, you know what we need? We need like a weight that has a rattle in it to kind of call them out. And because we had tried putting rattles inside the worms, and it changes the action of the worm that these companies work so hard.
Right.
Make an accurate presentation. You put rattles in it. Now you're changing the weight displacement and the action of the bait. So that kind of was a no-go for us. But ultimately, I kind of came up with the idea of in that moment of putting a rattle and a weight. I didn't really do anything with it. A couple months go by, and I'm like, man, it really would. I ran into more situations where I thought it would be effective. So I started doing things like drilling out the bottom of the lead weights. Well, if you've ever tried to drill out a hole in a lead weight, it just tears it. It's really soft metal. It's so hard to deal with. I just wasn't able to figure it out. And I started to understand why it just doesn't exist, or it hadn't existed up to that point, because it was really difficult to do. I was sitting at work one day, and I had this idea of how to do it, how to get the tube inside. Once I realized that, I started playing with different combinations of materials, because lead, as you guys know, it's a sound dampening material by nature.
Right.
So it was hard to get the sound to exit the weight to where it would be effective. So I learned a couple things through that process. And what we found was that brass and tungsten makes the best sound, and 100% makes the best vibration, at least that bass would react to. So once we kind of figured out the combination, I remember making the very first one. I had the do-it molds like everyone else pours their own drop shot weights with. I was able to make my first prototype using those materials, and I got it dialed in, and I started using it, and we started catching a lot of fish, a lot more than we had before. We won a lot of tournaments, and what kind of made the light bulb go off for me was, as far as a business goes, is I gave it to a buddy of mine, and he won just about every Friday night tournament in the summer series. And He was throwing a 3/8, and he was throwing it in a brush pile. And what he said to me, he said it's like calling bucks during the rut in hunting season, where you just call them and they come to you. He said, I would throw this into a brush pile, and we would shake that 3/8 rattle shot in there, and you would watch the fish on forward-facing sonar that was swimming around. They'd go down into the brush pile, and then you feel the bite. And he said, we really didn't have to cover much water. We hit a bunch of brush piles at the right depth, and that was it. That's all we did. And they won. I honestly don't know how many they won. They won a pile. And the ones they didn't win, they were like second. So that's kind of when the light bulb went off. And I said, man, if I could just get this into other people's hands and start getting some more different experiences, things that I'm not thinking of, it may take off. And that's what's happened.
Yeah, and it's amazing that, and fish are so attracted by sound, and everybody knows that. But what I don't think a lot of people realize is that sound carries so much underwater. It doesn't have to be a ton of rattles and something. I remember working for a rattle company years and years ago. I think I was in my late 20s, and it was when glass rattles first started to come out. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman at the time told me, he goes, Jim, you don't need 6 or 7 or 8 BBs in a rattle to make it sound. You need 1 or 2 and give it room to work.
That's right. Yeah, I agree with that.
And it makes a lot louder sound. And putting cameras under the water over the last several years, more and more like we have, it is amazing that the littlest bump on that camera, the slightest little bump, or even the lure barely touching the camera underwater, and you hear that tick, tick, you hear that little click. It doesn't take a lot. That's why I always used to crack up when people would take a rattle, and they would shake and go, listen to my rattle. You don't need to do that. Right. That's more for us to hear. You don't need to do that. Right. You can literally take a weight and drop it on the bottom. And you were 100% correct when I've done it with cameras underwater. And for those of you that just realize this, those of you who are watching right now or listening later on Roku and Fire TV, that having a camera underwater shows you a lot of things. And I'm going to get back to Dennis's point right there. But taking lead, like he said, is a dampening sound. It is a light thud. When you take tungsten, like you said, and you drop it, not only do you feel it better, it's more distinct. And so when you have a rattle system like that, it doesn't take a lot. It also transmits feel a lot better. So any of your brand graphite rods out there, the product that he's done is going to be able to be felt much easier because of the materials he's been used. And I'm guessing now that you've had more experience probably than anybody or your buddies, that you've probably realized that it doesn't take that much for you to get exactly what you want and get the results, does it?
No, it's not. And I posted a video recently. This past weekend, I went to a lake and I caught a 7.5 pounder on the drop shot. And if you watch that video, and I know you had seen it, when I cast it out there, I let go to the bottom and I start shaking it. And what I'm doing basically is I'm shaking the slack. I don't want it. I don't want the drop shot coming up off the bottom, but I'm shaking the slack. And what I'm doing is I'm causing that rattle to flop back and forth. And yeah, it's going to come up a little bit, but when it does, it's tink, tink, tink. And when it goes back down, it gives me another one. And I just keep doing that. And I'll reel down and let it reset, tink, tink, tink. And then I'll let it reset. And that sound and what you're saying is so true about the tungsten. You can feel it. But the one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is how fine-tuned the bass's lateral line is. At just the very smallest vibration. Because you think about it at night or in really muddy water, they don't stop eating. They keep eating. They can't see it. They can hear it. They can feel it mainly. And that lateral line is really drawing them in. So that is what the tungsten inside the brass does. You remember years ago when it got really popular, it was fishing at night, and they would put brass weights with glass beads. So they used to brass and glass all the time is what everyone was talking about. This is a very similar situation with the brass, but I use tungsten, and the tungsten gives a good sound, but it gives such a hard vibration. It just mimics a crawfish, and it was better than any other combination of materials that we tried. And then that fish, the one that I'm referring to, I threw it over there and I shook it and let it sit, and I shook it and let it sit, and then I felt the bite. And I really think because of that vibration, because it was in a little bit heavy cover where I casted, I really think that had a lot to do with it. And then I had over 25 pounds for my best 5 fish that day. And a lot of them I was calling, I would see them, I would throw, I'd either miss or they'd swim off, and I'd start shaking it, and those fish would turn around and come back. I could see them on my live scope, and then they come back and get it. And without that vibration and sound, those fish are going to continue going towards the bait that they were headed towards.
Now, 2 things I can tell you for sure. When you tell me a 25-pound limit, there's 2 things I know for sure. 1, you were very happy, and 2, you weren't fishing where I live, is in Illinois. So
yeah, that's right.
I know that for a fact. I want to show you all something here. This is one of the drop shot weights right here. And I apologize for those of you who are listening and can't see what I'm doing. But even when you turn this thing sideways, just a little bit, that weight or that rattle is going inside there. So what Dennis was talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, when you had that weight there, you're basically shaking it so that weight is falling down, coming back up, and you're just making that thing make that noise. And that little bit underwater, I am telling you folks, that right there, because of how he's got that made in that tungsten, that weight, that there's like a transfer in there, you can feel it with the slightest movement in this design of his. You can feel that ball in there going back and forth and making noise. And a lot of times is that what you're doing with that so much, is you're not really being real aggressive with it, you're just doing it enough to draw attention.
That's exactly right. And that's a good point. I wanted to say, if you guys have ever fished mega bass jerkbaits, the first one that comes to mind, they had the weight transfer system inside. So if you've ever held in your hand, if you're like me, you buy a $30 jerkbait, you want to take it out of the pack and play with it. So I have it in my hand and I'm shaking it. And every time that ball rolls in the transfer system and it gets down to the opposite end, right, it's a very defined thud, a hard hit in your hand. Imagine that, as sensitive as a bass is, as much as sound and vibration carry underwater. Imagine what that's doing. It doesn't take a lot. We don't have to do this underwater to get right, that sound and vibration. So you're right. When I cast it out, it goes down. Obviously, it's going to lay flat. When I start to retrieve it, it's being picked up every time. And inside those weights is a brass tube with 2 tungsten beads. So every time that I'm popping it, it may be coming off the bottom an inch or so, but that's it. And we've done it in tanks enough. I don't watch it. I have my buddy's video from the side of the tank where they can see it. I cast it out and I just retrieve like I normally do. And I know that I'm shaking the slack. I know it's not coming off the bottom. And then I watch the video and I see that it's staying on the bottom, but you can see the fish that you cast it in. And those tanks and shows, and we do, fishing expos and things, those fish are conditioned. They get beat on day after day after day. And the guy will even tell you sometimes, he's like, look, man, You may want to focus on your product. Don't worry about what the fish are doing. Maybe show it action in the water. And it sounds like a sales pitch, but I'm telling you, we throw it in there. The fish look at the drop shot, and they kind of just keep doing their thing. As soon as we start shaking it, those fish, you can see their fins go up, their bodies turn, their nosing down. And once one or two starts biting, it's just a chain reaction. And when I did the rattle rig, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. I could not continue with my seminar because the fish just would not let it go. We actually thought we hooked them in the throat, but I had it buried good enough where it didn't hurt them. So
now,
the vibration does make a big deal.
It's funny that you say that because I don't know if I've done hundreds, but over 30 years of doing seminars, I've done a lot of those tanks. Okay. Yeah. And the funny thing is I've got that same speech from that guy, whoever runs those tanks and wherever they are across the country, buddy, it's just not a good day today. And I was, laugh at the crowd and tell them, I got news for you. I said, now we're the third day of the show. These fish could tell you every brand name and serial number off every freaking lure that's wet by them right now.
Yeah, they can tell you the weight size.
Yeah, right, exactly. I once looking at it, goes, I've seen that already. You take a little green pumpkin worm, you put that on a little rattle and drop shot right there, and you are right. As soon as one shows up, all you do is grab, and I don't care if it's a bluegill, I don't care if there's a perch in there. If they look at it, those bass are going to start showing up. And two things that has always taught me. When that happens, and we know that happens to us, for sure, being good with forward-facing sonar, that happens. But when you get one's attention, that competition mode kicks in.
Yeah.
They're all going to start going over there, and eventually they can't stand it. Smallmouth are the worst at it. They can't even stand it half as long as a largemouth could.
Yeah, that's right.
Most of the time, but smallmouth just you can see them shaking, man. Those fins get, and that where a largemouth will come down, head down. When that smallmouth turns sideways and those eyes start silt, something's about to go down.
Yeah, that's right.
It's about to go down. So just for any of you who ever fish a tank at a sports show, just take it from me and Dennis right now. Something green pumpkin and something that rattles. I'm telling you. That's how you get your limit, right?
Yeah, it makes it. I want to say this while we're on the topic. A friend of mine helped me out a show, and he made a great point. He went opposite of how I would have presented it. Yeah. Such a solid point, though. When KVD used to just dominate, and I know he's a great fisherman, but he's kind of in his career, but when he was dominating on crankbaits, he was one of the first. Now, I don't know if anyone else was doing the first one that I remember that would switch from the rattling crankbait over to the silent series. He would just work a school, catch everything he could. Then he would switch to a silent crankbait, and he'd get it through there, and he would pick up an additional 1, 2, 3 fish, whatever the case is. My buddy's making the point that if you're fishing if you're on pressured lakes, and it sounds like you guys may be, we are here for sure because forward-facing sonar, better boats, just more people on the lake constantly, especially since COVID hit, is just people are just out there. YouTubers, I mean, they're out there, they're fishing, and they're good. They're very skilled anglers. They go and they're fishing pressure lakes and they're throwing a drop shot time and time again. You come behind them throwing the same thing, but now you're adding sound and vibration to a technique that was almost always visual before. You're appealing to more of the bass's senses. You're basically doing opposite of what KVD did. He's hitting them with the rattling crankbaits over and over and over. And all of a sudden he throws a silent one and they act like they've never seen a crankbait before and they choke it. And it's the same thing with the drop shot. You're just doing it in reverse order.
One of my favorite crankbaits of all time, and probably one of the best-selling crankbaits of all time, no matter what companies we throw, is a Rapala DT6.
Yeah.
And that one, it's very hard to duplicate if you can duplicate the action of balsa. But when everybody else out there is throwing rattling crankbaits, I've been a huge fan of balsa for years, and a DT4, a DT6, even a new Ott the Foe crankbaits, which the little tiny one that he has
right now. Series.
Yeah, the OG series. And the new Rocco, which I just got done throwing like crazy when we were up in Canada. And you're right. It's different. You still have the vibration, but you don't have that all intrusive sound of people going over and over and over again. All those have their time and place. And it's up to us as an angler to figure out there are certain times when things work better. And that day it may just work better for you. It may not work better for anybody else, but just depending on how your presentation is, what your lure depth, what your lure retrieve speed is, that can make that's what makes it so fun, is putting together all those pieces of the puzzle. But I remember back that far. I'm that old. I remember when KVD was dominating, everything. Before him, it was Denny Brower and Gary Klein and guys like that. Yeah. And guys that we learned from, coming up, and now you see Jacob Wheeler and At Defoe and guys. Everybody has their time because fishing is constantly changing. That's what keeps it such a great challenge. What we're going to do when we come back, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. When we come back, I want to talk about your other product that I love, and I've got one rigged up right here.
Okay.
And I want to show people to it. I'm actually going to be using it at a tournament this weekend.
Awesome.
And it's actually going to be one of the things that I'm going to be using for smallmouth. And I want to pick your brain a little bit so we can tell the viewers and for the people that will see this when it's on our other platforms. But I want to discuss with you a little bit about your feeling toward it, where you would do it. Me and you can go back and forth and maybe fill them in on a couple ways that we might use it. And it might be different, might be the same, but it'll still be interesting.
Sure.
So we are going to be back, as we always say. We're going to be back like Chuck Woolery. Remember him? 2 and 2.
American Tackle is home to the award-winning microwave line control system. Rod blanks to reel seats, ferrules to finish, grips to guides. They are committed to the very best in rod building components. Find out more, americantackle.us. With fishing beyond your expectations, indoor and outdoor activities, a vast variety of places to eat, drink, and stay. Discover your next adventure between the bluffs. ExploreLaCrosse.com. Located in Springfield, Illinois' largest selection of sports and sportswear, hunting, fishing, specialty shops and services, a 65-foot Ferris wheel, 16,000-gallon saltwater aquarium, and industry-leading knowledgeable employees. You don't take chances at Shields, ever. Go to Shields.com. Achieving affordable innovation through novel concepts and in-house ingenious designs. Cascading cost-effective e-commerce practices directly market to consumers, cutting costs by 30% or more on average. Affordable innovation, superior quality. Casking.com. Believing quality is measured by lifespan and harnessing their unique chemistry and engineering know-how. Dakota Lithium lasts 4 times longer, powering your passion with an 11-year warranty. Find out more, DakotaLithium.com.
Slick Fish Radio with Jim Crowley can be seen and heard on Roku, Fire TV, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iTunes.
There we go. Come here. Get in here. Yeah. Nice fish right there. Hi, I'm Jim Crowley. Make sure you catch my show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Wired to Fish TV. Look for Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV on free ad-supported streaming TV, including Plex, that can be downloaded in the App Store at Apple TV, Roku, Samsung, and others.
Welcome back, my friends. We are back with Drop Zone Tackles, Dennis Stump. And one more thing I want to mention before we go. Those of you who were kind enough to watch this week, the newest episode of Jim Crowley Outdoors just dropped on YouTube as well. And it was my bucket list tarpon show where I caught my first tarpon. This was actually just about 3 weeks ago. And so if you haven't seen it yet, please check out we have updated our YouTube channel. We are trying to grow that. So all season 1 and part of season 2 is now on YouTube at Jim Crowley Outdoors. So if you want to see some really cool shows that educate and entertain, we always say we don't do it better than anybody, but we show you how we do it. And it's definitely a lot of fun with a lot of good, solid information, especially if you've got high school anglers or kids. They're all really good, kid-friendly shows. They're informative, they're exciting, and hey man, nothing beats it more than getting excited over fishing. And I do that in a lot of the episodes. I'm just telling you, we are blessed to have some great adventures this year. And so go check out our YouTube channel. And if you like this episode, we got some great more information that Dennis and I are going to share with you right now and discuss. Please share this episode. The more people that continue to watch this, and God bless all of you who do, the bigger this show continues to grow and the more that we'll be able to offer our audience in the future. So I always say we don't have a show without all of you. So God bless you for tuning in. Now, Dennis, I do want to talk about when you and I were first talking about your products. And by the way, Dennis's products are now all going to be available at Lure Parts Online. You've heard me talk about Lure Parts Online plenty of times. So go there and you can look up Drop Zone Tackle. And we may be out of stock already. I'm serious. But I know there's some more stuff coming in. But go to Lure Parts Online, and if you're interested in this product, which you will be, especially after this next one, go to Lure Parts Online and look up Drop Zone Tackle. Now, I'm going to show you this. Now, Dennis, why don't you tell them what that is, and then I want to talk a little bit about it.
Sure. So that is the second product that we released, and that is a rattle rig. And here's a package here. Here's what it's going to look like when you guys order and get it in the mail. This that I'm holding in my hand, it's a 1/2 ounce. It's basically our same technology that we had in the rattle shot weights, but we powder coated them. We put a welded metal ring on a VMC extra wide gap hook, and then a split ring that connects the hook to the weight.
Yep.
And now you have, and people call it different things. Basically, it's a Zika rig. It's spelled J. A lot of people say Jika, but it's pronounced Zika rig. It's a rattling Zika rig. So this is a 1/2 ounce I have here, and I don't know how good my mic is, but it has the same rattle that our rattle shot weights have. The same vibration that we talked about was so key. The one thing you want to make sure of when you tie it on, you want to tie to the welded metal ring. So the weight's going to be down, your hook's going to be there, and you want to tie directly to that welded metal ring. And that does several things really well. Number one, like a conventional Texas rig, the line goes down into a U shape, and it has to fall in a V shape, just like this when it goes in grass and it goes between limbs in a laydown, brush, or whatever. It's more prone to hanging. It's a fairly weedless technique, but it is more prone to hanging. The difference is when you tie directly to this welded metal ring, your line doesn't have to go down and then into the weight. So it doesn't make the V like this. It's here, and they fall simultaneously side by side. You can throw where you're pitching heavy mats and you're throwing a 1 ounce weight. You can get by with a 1/2 ounce, sometimes a 3/8 ounce, because it falls vertical. So
great point.
Yep. And the line tucks up against the bait. Now, if you throw a big bulky bait, you're going to have an issue. But if you throw a slim line bait through there, it's going to fall straight through. You don't have to throw it on quite as heavy of equipment. You can downsize if it's a tougher day and you're flipping and pitching and punching. You could do it with a smaller bait. The other great thing about it is when you're tied to that welded metal ring, when that fish jumps, he swings freely on that.
Right.
He can't use that weight as leverage near as much as he does when it's a Texas rig. So that weight is pegged on a Texas rig. And even if it's not, if it's low, it's still swinging and pulling that line. It doesn't happen near as much with this setup.
One of my favorite hooks that VMC has is that ring hook like that, because when you set the hook, there is no leverage or a lot less leverage, and the weight is independent from the hook, so it can't be used. And he was talking about putting a different rig on it. I'm going to show you how I have it rigged for an upcoming tournament. And this is actually our Big D darter from Lure Parts Online, an incredible smallmouth bait. But I have it on this rig here because I can pitch this in really heavy cover. And also, this is a great rig for smallmouth for dragging down rocky points. I know when I go to La Crosse in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be dragging and shaking this little Big D on the back of that. There's just not a lot of fish that have seen that right now, and that sit up, since that Big D is it moves a lot of water by itself. But on the Zika rig with this little rattle weight right here, this is 1/4 ounce. That's going to be plenty heavy enough, even fishing through some of that grass that I can in La Crosse, because it's shallow, as well as dragging it down rocky points. Again, it's made with a VMC hook. But what a killer, I'm going to hold it this way, what an absolutely killer setup that is. And one of the reasons I like the Tokyo rig is because when the bait falls, it whips the bait down. It's not just a straight fall. This is what I like about this too. This falls, this will actually, in my opinion, give a better profile fall to this type of bait than a regular Texas rig. I really like this, especially when I hop it or I can sit and drag it. And as we talked about before, with that tungsten, with everything like that, very little effort is going to get you the sound and vibration that you want because of the way he designed it. And Lee Kerr just came on, and Lee from Big City Tackle. Yeah, Lee, I think it's awesome too. I really do. And I like that. I am going to be throwing this rig. I just think that's going to be a very, very effective rig, and something that, at least for a lot of people around here as of right now, haven't seen. Now that's how I'm thinking that I'm going to use it. Dennis, what do you do with this product that you designed?
Well, I appreciate it. And in your case there, the first thing that comes to mind is you said there was going to be some grass there.
Yeah.
So first of all, in Virginia, most prominent for us in almost every fishery we fish is largemouth. There's a lot of really good smallmouth at Smith Mountain Lake, and we do target those from time to time. A lot of times they're kind of a bonus for us because they are really aggressive. And when the day is right and they're there, you're going to catch them. But the first thing that comes to mind with you is that crawfish and gobies, they're on the bottom. That's what that bait is going to represent. But you're going to have visual obstructions in that clear water with grass, boulders, rock piles, opposite sides of the slope of the point. But because you're throwing something with sound and vibration to a creature that is basically just a great white on steroids, when it's coming and it's going to hear the sound and vibration, and you really can't get it away from them. One of my favorite techniques with this, since you're asking, and I'm hoping that it works for you as well, is when you throw it out on especially long rocky points here, I'll throw it up as shallow as I can get it, keep my rod tip high for the first third of the retrieve, and I will just reel it. And as long as I'm maintaining bottom contact, I'm going to keep going as fast as I can. As soon as I lose contact, I'm going to slow it down just a little bit, because every time that this bounces off a rock or has to come through something else, it is banging and clanging and it's vibrating. And that's something that's really gotten us a lot of bites. Hey, my computer says I got a little battery. 1 second. Let me plug this up.
Okay. And Rick Regis chimed in and he said, that should work great on wing dams and river systems. Rick, that is exactly what I was thinking about for the smallmouth up in La Crosse. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Good catch on that, Rick.
And it's going to get hung up a lot less than my buddy that I fish with. He likes to throw a swing jig a lot.
Sure, me too.
And half ounce and 3/4 are his go-to size. It gives a good thump when it hits a rock. But the problem is it's the football head, and it will get wedged in the rocks that we fish in a particular area. There are a lot of gaps, a lot of big gaps in these rocks, and that's where the crawfish are. It's a fairly weedless technique, but that doesn't get hung up near as much. And if you think about it, that weight is dragging behind, unlike a football jig, which now is sideways. You're having to pull it through sideways, and it's just a lot more surface area to get hung. When you're dragging this behind, it's very streamlined.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons I like a cylinder weight on a drop shot better than any other type of weight. Just because I feel I can come through stuff better. Let's see. And Gen just shot. Hi, Gen. How you doing? That sounds awesome. Just a technique he explained. And again, that's what I said. One of the reasons I love having people on that explain techniques that, hey, I'm learning some new stuff too. And so are all of you. Again, if you like this show, and a lot of you have chimed in tonight, and thank you again so much, please share this. Please share this so more people find out about drop zone tackle. These little techniques like this. Hey, if I'll put one more extra fish in a boat for us each weekend, one more, and you learn a new technique just by adding something different. This was worth all of our time because somebody designed something so cool that we can add. I am so pumped about this. One of the other things, and for those of you guys watching from up north for smallmouth, when we go to Mille Lacs or Lake of the Woods, and you're dragging stuff through rocks or through rock to sand transitions, which is where a lot of smallmouth hang, depending on the time of year. Smallmouth love transitions, period, end of story. They love transitions. You take this rattling Zika rig right here, and you put a little craw on that, or you put that big D on the back of that, and you're dragging that through smallmouth territory. That is on a 2-0 hook right there, and you're dragging that through. I will bet you money that will get eaten alive. I will. That is just one. It's going to be weedless, exactly like Dennis said it was going to be. It's going to be a lot more snag resistant, and your hooking percentage, because there's no leverage on that weight when you set the hook, especially on a smallmouth, is going to increase.
Yeah,
it's going to be better. Where's one of your favorite times to throw this, or is this just something you have tied on all the time?
I have it tied on all the time, but my highlights that I found so far, number one, probably top of the list and won't change, is spawning fish.
Sure.
I do like a drop shot on spawning fish because it keeps it off the bottom just a little bit. It gets it right in their face, and they just can't resist, especially smallmouth in our area. They're just so prone to catching it. Oh, I want to give you guys a tip real quick, because something that I learned, and I think your viewers will probably really appreciate this. When you're cruising down the bank in clear water and you see a smallmouth in 4, 6, 8 foot, whatever it is, a lot of times, wind, cloud, whatever, you just can't see that fish until you get on top of them, right?
Right.
So as soon as you see them, if you'll take your drop shot and just throw it over in the bed right then, and just troll away, open your bail and troll away. You can go 50 yards if you want, but just get out of the area and then keep tabs on your line. When you get out there, close your bail, pick up your line. If he doesn't already have it, he's coming back. They're so aggressive. Your boat's out of the way. You don't have to guess where the bed is. You know it's there. Don't pull it off. Just shake it real subtle, and that fish will get it. And that's something I learned this year. And that's a hammer technique. It catches a lot of fish.
And I will tell you what, I haven't done that, and I will agree 100%. And I will tell you why. Because when I've been on smallmouth beds, I've seen this happen before. When you're throwing and you see the bed, and you throw, when they go off the bed, sometimes they will go directly under your boat.
Yeah, the only shade available.
And you're looking straight down, and you're like, no wonder he's not there. And they're sitting underneath the boat. As soon as that boat moves away, they will go back to the bed.
Yeah.
So if you guys remember what him and I just said, without me ever even trying a technique, that's something I'm going to do before, because I've done that before with like a hair jig, got away from the area where I saw the fish, threw back over there, and I would say 7-8 times out of 10 I pick up and the fish is already on there. This is just another technique you can do that with, and you're sitting there shaking it in a bed. 100%.
All right, so I know I got off topic a little bit, but I wanted to share that because it's such a good technique, and I think you guys maybe could catch some more fish with it. So the other places I really like throwing the rattle rig is grass. We don't have a lot of grass here, but some of the lakes that we do, when you throw it in grass, obviously, unless he's there where it's going straight down, it's not displacing a ton of water, he's not going to know it's there. When you add the rattle rig in there and you're getting that sound and vibration, now you don't have to pick it apart as much. You can be way more efficient going on the bank. You can pick your spots. You throw it in an open area and you shake, or you throw it just prior to the laydown that's in the grass or something, and you don't have to fight the fish through the laydown. You can call them out of there just a little bit to come to that sound and vibration, but you're just giving them more avenues to find it, more so he can see it. If it's a visual line of sight for him, but if he can't, now you have sound and vibration. You've already appealed to 2 more of the senses that you would have. He's going to feel it, he's going to hear it, he's going to see it. Now, I mean, if you have good scent on there, he may smell it. The only thing left is to taste, and that now you've occupied all of his 5 senses, and you're doing it in a really natural and non-threatening way. So the grass is a big one, and that kind of plays into heavy covers such as laydowns, brush piles. And we've already hit on it a little bit about my buddy that was using it at nighttime in brush piles. I've also used it. We'll throw drop shots in brush piles, and when we want to try to get a bigger fish, we'll put a little bit bigger bait on there. We'll throw that, or vice versa. If we need to back off the size because they're not quite as active, then we'll go to a drop shot. But those are kind of my top 3: spawning, grass, and then heavy cover. And heavy cover could also be docks, because it skips not as good as a jig that's real compact. But if you lift your rod as you're doing the skipping motion, it'll get under there where you need it. We have a lot of boat docks here. And this is a sound and vibration and a technique that they don't see a lot under docks. I've won a lot of tournaments at Smith Mountain Lake, and that's one way that we have done it, is putting things in places that the fish don't normally see, and a lot of it has to do with the sound and vibration.
So everything that Dennis said, I'm going to show you again what I said one of my favorite rigs, what this is going to be. You're going to have that rattle rig. I'm going to take our Big D that is infused with crunch. So any of you guys have been on Lure Parts, and a lot of people that are on here tonight, you've already thrown some of these Bass Academy Big Ds and other baits we have that's infused with that crunch. You know they're not going to let go of it. They can hear it. It feels real. It sounds real. I let go of it. This is going to be just a killer rig. And I think Rick Reed is the one who said on wing dams. Yeah, you know it, Rick. You darn straight. It's going to be great. So looking forward. Now, what I want to do before we let you go, I want you to tell everybody where they can find out more about Drop Zone Tackle. And just so you all realize, Drop Zone Tackle is now on Lure Parts Online. So you can go to Lure Parts and you can order the stuff we're talking about. And Dennis, do you have anything new coming out soon, or stuff still in the works?
Yeah. Did you want me to give my website as well?
Yeah, do that, buddy.
Okay, I appreciate that. So rattleshot.com. Again, that is rattleshot.com. That is where all of our products are available. And we also just partner with Lure Parts, and I'm really excited to work with those guys. They seem very nice up to this point. I don't expect that to change, and I'm looking forward to a long future with those guys. So you can go to either place to check out our products. I actually just talked to my manufacturer today. This is something that I've had in the works for a while, because I know the success firsthand with winning tournaments, and my buddies winning tournaments, and guys just giving me really good feedback on the rattle shot, how that sound and vibration we've talked about so much tonight really makes such a difference. We're putting that technology into a shaky head, which is one of my favorite ways.
Yes.
And I just talked to the manufacturer today. He's actually starting on the samples now. And I'm hoping that when they come back, because I've already done it once and I did not like it. It just wasn't right. And I was like, man, we could probably sell it, but it's just not going to be up to par. And I think people will catch on quickly that it's not quite what they're looking for. So we scrapped that.
Good.
We redesigned it. And hopefully that these next samples that are coming through will be the real deal. So we have that. There's a Carolina rig weight that's in the works. It's on the back shelf because I think the shaky head is going to be more important. And being a small company,
sure,
and just pump all of our money into it at one time, was honestly, we got to sell some and then get more molds made and then sell some more and they get
How
more.
it works.
So it's a balance. I'm learning. I still have a full-time job, but so that's what we have. I'm most excited about the shaky head. The rattle shot's selling really good. Customers are awesome. I had one guy today. He's a pretty prominent fisherman in our area, and his review was that he's getting at least twice the bites that he normally does on a drop shot. And this is a guy that knows what he's talking about. So I was really happy and pumped to hear that. I'm excited that it's helping people catch fish. I'm also excited that something that we made here is actually working. And I just look forward to a bright future.
That's awesome. So I've got your website on there at rattleshot.com. Go check that out. They can also find you on Facebook and Instagram too, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That's correct. Yep. Facebook and Instagram. We're on there as well. Drop Zone Tackle. And guys, listen, if you anywhere you buy it, I don't care where you get it, as long as you guys are happy with your purchase, please leave a review. If it's something you want to see us do different, if you're not happy with it, leave us a review. I don't want praise. I just want honesty. It really helps us a lot because it helps us get in a better. If we're not in the right direction, we want to alter just a little bit to make sure you guys are getting what you need. And if you leave a great review, it's very helpful for us. It helps the next customer make a better decision. So if you purchase, please leave a review. I really appreciate it.
And we have that on Lure Parts Online as well. So if you get it from us, make sure you leave a review on there because that helps other customers see how satisfied you were with any of the products on Lure Parts. And we are thrilled over there. I do a lot of the R&D with Lure Parts. And as soon as you and I had talked, it didn't take us long to get it on there. So we were thrilled. Nicholas D'Andrea said Facebook or social media accounts. Yeah, just go to Drop Zone on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find Dennis there. And so, hey, Dennis, thanks again, buddy, for joining us tonight. Thank you for these great products. I'm sure we'll be in contact soon. I'm hoping after this weekend I'll send you a couple of pictures because I know next week Andrew and I are going to be trying them and hopefully getting you some good pictures for that.
But look forward to it. I hope you guys win.
I do too. Continued success. God bless you, my friend. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That was great. I love, and that's one of the reasons I love having small companies or smaller companies on the show as they grow. One, it helps because of all of you. Nicholas, I'm going to put your comment up here. That would be great on Lake Geneva, no question. Delavan is another one that I was thinking of. I'll be up there in a couple of weeks, and I'm definitely going to be trying it on Delavan, especially as high as the grass is right now, and the boat docks on that lake. God, I love Delavan. But yeah, definitely going to be trying it on there. So before we leave tonight, once again, I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. That was a lot of information tonight. And like I said, if you really enjoyed this show, please make sure you see us. For those of you on Roku and Fire TV, that is where we are growing the most. God bless you all. Thank you for that. Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, thank you as well, and YouTube as well. I'm going to bring up our YouTube channel one more time. If you haven't been to our new YouTube channel, we have updated it. We also have season 1 and accumulating season 2 episodes from Jim Crowley Outdoors and Wired to Fish. They're all on there now. Most of them are on. All of season 1 is, and part of season 2. We just came out with a new episode this week, which is my bucket list tarpon show, where you'll actually see about how I had a heart attack catching my first tarpon down there in Florida. We have another episode coming out next week, and a lot of great things coming. So if you would, please go to our YouTube page and subscribe, where you can see our episodes, shorts. You can also see back episodes of Slickfish Radio on there. Everything that is Jim Crowley Outdoors is now being transferred over to YouTube, so you have more places where you can access us. And like I always say, I appreciate all of you every time that you can share it with somebody else, or thank you for the very kind words and the very kind comments that you always provide. Thanks again to our friends at American Tackle, Explore Lacrosse, our friends over at Shields Casking, and powered by Dakota Lithium. Before we leave, though, I do want to give you a couple codes, as I always do. If you're interested in anything from my friends at American Tackle, voted best of show ICAST 2023, go to AmericanTackleAnglerProducts.com, put it in that code, and you will get 20% off the coolest looking reel at ICAST, and more and more and more things being added to the incredible website that Cast King now has. 20% off anything and everything that Cast King has. That code right there, JC52AFF. They've got some great new tackle bags, some killer new tools, the new Gila pliers that I'll be doing a video on in the next couple of weeks. You've got to see these. I saw these at ICAST. I've got a couple of them that I will be doing videos on, but go to Cast King and check out their new Gila, Gila, pliers and tools. phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So go to Cascade and use the code JC52AFF. So just another great episode tonight, and thank you, all of you, for being with us again tonight. We've got more episodes coming up in the future. Stay tuned to our social media on Facebook, on Instagram, and YouTube. We got some new shorts coming up later this week, as well as some new informative product videos for you. Always working, never stopping. The best is yet to come, and I have all of you to thank for that. God bless you. We'll see you soon.